Since the time of Critter, the format evolved drastically with the release of 3 new main sets and the first 3 tournament packs. As one would expect, the format has evolved substantially in that time, yet almost regressed in forms of diversity into an odd period for retro formats. I'm the Law Yugioh, this is Retro Retrospective, and today we jump back to April 2003 with Android format.
Psst, hey, real quick, did you know that only about 20% of people who watch my content are subscribed? If you like what you see, leave a like, comment, and subscribe below. Thanks, it really does help a lot.
A lot has changed in the meta landscape since Critter, with 3 main sets, 3 tournament packs, and a near doubling of the banned list, so let's get started right away. The banned list's limited section has bulked out substantially since our last visit, seeing Sangan and Witch enter, which based on their staple status was well deserved. In addition, swords and card destruction would also be moved to the limited to help keep games moving and to nerf hand destruction options as they've grown substantially since last time. As for newcomers in limited, Cyberjar and Morphing Jar are flip effect nukes, with the former hitting monsters on the board and the latter hitting the hand, essentially hard resetting their target by sending all cards from it to the graveyard, then replacing them, with Morphing drawing both players 5, and Cyber summoning all level 4 and lowers from the top 5 cards of each player, having them draw the rest. Jinzo, being the namesake android of the format, is a 1 tribute monster, similar to Summon Skull, that locks all trap cards from activating and negates all others. The hand-ripping trio from Magic Ruler are now limited, each having a cost of 1,000 to disrupt the opponent's hand in some way, with Confiscation looking and discarding a card, Forceful Sentry looking and spinning a card back, and Delinquent Duo not looking, discarding a card at random, and then having the opponent discard one of their choice in addition. The most powerful attack buffing options were also limited, being Limiter Removal, which doubled the attack of all machines but destroys them in the end phase, and United We Stand and Mage Power, the 2 best equipped spells for attack buffing. Painful Choice was also limited here due to the graveyard setup it provided for cards like Monster Reborn and Magician of Faith. Upstart Goblin was limited due to the lax nature of its requirement to draw a card, preventing players from essentially playing 37 card decks. Premature Burial and Snatch Steal were limited as the powerful outliers of the equipped spells, with Premature being essentially Monster Reborn and Snatch Steal being a permanent change of heart. Lastly, for the traps, Call the Haunted operated similarly to Premature Burial, just on a trap, Ceasefire and Magic Cylinder were limited to help keep burn strategies in check, and Imperial Order was a blanket spell negate that could be turned off at will. Moving into semi-limits, Morphing Jar 2 operated similarly to Cyberjar, but shuffled the monsters back into deck and kept excavating cards until it got the same number of monsters back onto the field, sending all other cards excavated to the grave, being useful in mill strategies. Nobleman of Crossout is semi'd here due to the prevalence of flip monsters in the format, making it one of the best removal options, completely taking the monster it hits out of the game. Lastly, Backup Soldier was semi due to its interaction with Painful Choice and Exodia, as being able to dump the vanilla pieces of Exodia and then add them back with Backup Soldier speeds up the process of the Exodia win condition significantly. Beyond the ban list, there are a substantial number of new cards that affect the format from the sets released in between. Starting in Magic Ruler, released in September 2002, we have the Recruiters, a group of 6 monsters that, when destroyed by battle, summon a monster of their attribute from the deck with less than 1500 attack. Of these, the most prevalent one is unquestionably Mystic Tomato, as it can summon out Sangan or Witch with its effect, giving searchability for almost any card in your deck. New options were now available for back row disruption through Mystical Space Typhoon, which was a single target removal, and Giant Trunade, which blanket bounced every spell and trap on the field back to hand. Commonly referred to as the Taxes duo, Chain Energy and Toll force the opponent to pay life to play the game. In a similar vein, Messenger of Peace locked attacking from anything with more than 1500 attack at the cost of 100 life points a turn, which is undoubtedly the most insultingly low cost for any card ever. Relinquish is the first of the new ritual card type, and the only one to see play, even if its play is niche, able to steal a monster from the opponent and use it as an equipped spell to gain attack and battle protection. Lastly from this pack are the Elemental Field spells, with each of the 6 corresponding to an attribute, boosting that attribute by 500 attack and dropping its defense by 400, which saw niche play in beatdown-centric decks. Moving into Pharaoh's Servant in October of 2002, Dust Tornado was a trap card version of MST, which was necessary due to the release of Imperial Order. Cold Wave was essentially a back row freeze for 1 turn, which was extremely useful for pushing lethal without disruption. 4-starred Ladybug of Doom would see play as an option for wiping the boards of players using level 4 monsters, which was almost every beatdown monster. Goblin Attack Force was now the largest attack on a no tribute body at 2300 attack, but swapped to defense mode for a turn and a half after attacking, where it was easy to destroy. Lastly, for the main sets, Labyrinth of Nightmare was released in March 2003, and it brought cards like Gemini Elf, a 1900 attack normal monster, making it the highest attack without drawbacks in the game. Revival Jam could continuously bring itself back when destroyed in battle at the cost of 1000 life points, being a decent stall option. Mask of Restrict stopped tributing for any reason, locking tribute summons and specific effects. Fairy Box is one of the most annoying attack blockers in the game, flipping a coin on attack to potentially drop the attacking monster's attack to 0, coming at the cost of 500 life points a turn to keep active. Torrential Tribute is a board nuke on the summon of any monster, being one of the most prevalent summon traps. Card of Safe Return draws the user 2 cards whenever a monster is summoned from the graveyard, used standardly in combination with the Revival Trio and monsters that bring themselves back, like Revival Jam. Offerings to the Doomed was a quick play monster removal at the cost of your next draw phase, which was useful for its speed and simplicity. Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer was an 1800 attack body that also banished cards from the opponent's grave when it dealt battle damage, which was useful for locking the opponent out of recursion options. Bazoo the Soul Eater was a 1600 base attack, but it could boost itself for a turn by banishing monsters from the grave, able to climb up to 2500 attack. Lastly, for the main sets, Skull Lair was reusable removal by banishing monsters equal to the level of its target from grave, which was useful mostly for removing lower level monsters, but could splurge to remove higher levels too. As for the tournament packs, the only major card we haven't discussed here is Mechanical Chaser, which for a time was the most powerful no tribute monster in the game at 1850 attack, but has since been power crept by Gemini Elf. It is still useful as a body for some beatdown variants though. Moving into the decks of the format, the main issue with the Android format will arise, being that there is a significant issue with diversity in the format in the legacy play sense. The format is almost entirely dominated by tomato control, as it is the only deck to see significant results in the legacy tournaments for this format. The primary draw to the format is the pseudo rock paper scissors effect between its 3 key monsters, being Gemini Elf, Bazoo the Soul Eater, and Kaiku the Ghost Destroyer. Bazoo beats Gemini Elf thanks to its attack buff effect, Kaiku beats Bazoo by banishing its targets and locking it from banishing monsters on its own, and Gemini beats Kaiku thanks to its raw stat advantage. Because of this, most decks are centered around Mystic Tomato to access Witch of the Black Forest on command for access to any of these 3. There are a couple of other decks that have popped up and faded instantly, such as Ladybug Control, focused on the more powerful flip effects of the time like Ladybug, Morphing Jar, and Magician of Faith in combination with Fairy Box for stalling, Relinquished, which takes advantage of the Tomato engine to access Sangan and Witch for Senju and Sonic Bird to search out Relinquished's pieces, and Water Aggro, which takes advantage of the field spell Umiruka to boost the attack values of vanilla water monsters, like 7-colored fish, giant red sea snake, and amphibian beast. Here are the top 3 deck lists from the most recent Android tournament, being the Elitecan Cup, being all tomato control lists created by Jazz, Wawa, and GBO respectively. Though diversity may be an issue in Android through legacy play, it is not without its charm. Many of the hand control options that were available comparatively were either subpar or on the limited list, making the strategy not nearly as viable. This was all about to change as we approached the first World Championship, as a certain bird was about to change how the game was played for the rest of the era.